Niles Beacom with the South Dakota Hall of Fame, and I've got a special treat for us today. It's an interview with Ryan McFarland, and he was inducted into the South Dakota Hall of Fame in 2021. Ryan, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
You bet. Thank you. Thanks for having me on. It should be fun.
Yeah, and it will be, because you have just an incredible story. And could you start by just kind of telling about your childhood and how you got to South Dakota, and just share that, please.
Sure. Yep. Born in Indiana. So both my parents were school teachers. We lived in a little farming town, a couple thousand people, nothing but cornfields and humidity and mosquitoes. So we moved here when I was 10 years old to Custer. So to me, this was like a dream come true. We were moving to the mountains, and there were like ghost towns and gold mines, and so I was excited. I couldn't wait to get out here, and really I've been in love with the Black Hills ever since.
Well, reading about your past too, it sounds like your father was quite an individual that liked to try different things. And can you share some of the things that your father did and how you picked up from those things as well?
Yeah, you bet. My dad goes all the way back to actually my grandpa raced stock cars, so old dirt track cars and everything. So my dad grew up hot rodding cars and just kind of a motorsports enthusiast. So I grew up in that environment. When I was in kindergarten, I'd go to school the first half of the day, and the second half of the day my grandma would pick me up and take me out, and I'd hang out with my grandpa in the race shop, and so it just was around mechanical things a lot, and that whole tinkering and modifying and trying to get some performance out of a machine. That's what racing really does. It pushes the envelope of what's possible. It's a perfect, maybe breeding ground for entrepreneurism, is because you're always trying, how do I get a little bit more out of something? But so that was a big influence there. And then my dad, when I was young, he started a motorcycle shop. He's a motorcycle enthusiast, and so spent a lot of time at the motorcycle shop, and then just on toys. My dad also loves to play, so we always had the funnest toys in the neighborhood, little dune buggies and go-karts and dirt bikes and everything. So that's just been a big part of my whole childhood. And then when we moved to South Dakota, really just that was ingrained. And then all of a sudden you've got all this Forest Service land and roads and trails to explore on dirt bikes, and again, just kind of a dream come true compared to kind of some flat cornfields back in Indiana.
Ryan, how was the move from the dirt bikes to mountain bikes and trail bikes and stuff?
Oh, let's see, I got into mountain biking. I always had bicycles too, but I had been racing cars out here at Black Hills Speedway for a couple years, and that's a lot of work. Just a relentless effort each week, and Friday night racing and clean up all weekend, and just kind of got burnt out on it. I was working full time trying to do that, and cost a lot of money, and I was running out of money, and finally just sold everything and said I need something easier. And kind of got into the mountain biking thing and really fell in love with it, just from the sheer simplicity. It connected to my roots of riding dirt bikes, and then there was just kind of this purity and essence of the simplicity of a bicycle that you go do 15 minutes worth of maintenance instead of many hours, and then go enjoy the bike for hours. And the pace is slower on a mountain bike than a motorcycle, so I was getting a little bit different experience too, of just enjoying the Black Hills at a different pace too. You just see things differently, moving at a different pace. So.
And one of the things that you're really known for, but you have a number of inventions out there, but one is the Strider bike. And how did that come about?
That just really a Saturday afternoon project. I had gotten back into dirt biking about the same time I became a father. So, and had just really fallen back in love with dirt biking again. Had a buddy that We bought new dirt bikes, and we were out there riding, and it just kind of felt like a lot of childhood coming back. And so, that was my, I guess, passion was really alive for that sport right at that time. And so then really that was front of mind with my little boy. And so I think he learned his colors by what the colors of the dirt bike manufacturers were, and I think he learned most of his numbers by learning all the different supercross racers of the day and everything. So we were pretty into it, but I just excited to get him riding, and kind of bought all the stuff out there that people typically do. Had tricycles and training wheel, little bikes with training wheels, and different scoot toys. And but the tinkerer and the racer in me that's always trying to eke out a little bit more performance, was think, this is taking too long. There's got to be some better way to speed this process up. And so I just one day I just dug into that bike and said, there's something here that we're missing, because he's still struggling on this, and the answer can't be just to wait until he's older. And so I started just analyzing that little bike relative to his size. Being a bicyclist, I understand kind of how important fit is as an adult. And and if you look at the racing niche of mountain biking or road biking, I mean, they adjust their bikes by millimeters, and they try to save grams to really dial a bike in for the performance of an adult competitor. But little kids' bikes, if you really analyze them, they're horribly fit to the kids. Half the little bikes, that they look small compared to us as adults, but they weigh almost as much as the kids do, and the size is not even close to what would be ideal for the child size. But we just kind of, for whatever reason, we've all just missed it. And I missed it. I mean, I bought all that stuff for my son, and it wasn't until I really was watching him interact with all this that it just finally, I mean, this is after, months and months of watching him, trying to encourage him on these things, really, it finally sunk in. It's like, stuff is not sized right, and it's not focusing on the proper skills. And so that's when I just started digging in and said, okay, well, knowing his size at 30 inches tall with a 12-inch inseam, what would the bike have to be? What size would it have to be? And really, I took a look at that, and then looked at his bike, and you realize, okay, it's got a 16-inch seat height, and his legs are only 12 inches long. There's no way he's touching the ground. There's no way he's going to be comfortable on this bike. And, it weighs 18 pounds, and he only weighs 20. So I just started really having these revelations of what he's dealing with. And then I thought, well, if I were in his spot as an adult, this would be me getting a 120-pound bicycle for my first biking experience, a 120-pound bike with a seat height like up to my chest, 5 feet tall, with a single speed, and then going out and trying to ride that. And I'm thinking there's probably not an adult in this world that would go do that and think, well, this is fun. I want to be involved in this sport. It'd probably be the worst experience ever, and I'd be taking up golf or something else instead of riding. So it was kind of this revelation that we're not presenting kids the right machine for them to really have a good experience and fall in love with this sport. So that's what I set out to do, is need to size it to fit him exactly at the size that he's at, and then I need to simplify it, both in weight and complexity, to meet him where he's at in his weight and in his mental and physical abilities. And so that after a lot of hacksaw work, we ended up with what led to the Strider bike.
So once you had it, and your son, I imagine, loved it because he could handle it. He could maneuver it around. At what point did you say, I've got something here that I could take and really market?
Yeah. And that was this started out just trying to get him on a bike. I had another business at the time and everything. So it really was, in a way, I was kind of slow to the table at this because it was many months later. But he was so mobile on that bike that we started taking it with us wherever we went. You know, we used to take a stroller, or, you know, I'd carry him if we were out somewhere, and, you know, trying to go for a walk with a toddler is almost impossible. They're just dawdling all the time. So, you know, rather than carry him or take a stroller with us, we would just start taking his bike, because with that bike, he was more mobile than we were. I mean, he could go faster than we could walk at this point. This is a 2.5-year-old. So, and he was good at it. Well, so then what happened is people would see him out in public. I mean, we even went to the Central States Fair, and he's on his little bike weaving through crowds and everything, and strangers would just come up to us and just, hey, what is that? How old is he? Where'd you get that bike? And so it started becoming very obvious. There was interest and demand. And I remember kind of the day that I finally decided to act on it. It was probably actually just like one block over here. I had parked and we were walking to a restaurant. He was on his bike and he's zipping around doing circles around me and everything. And the cars were stopped at the light, and there was a woman sitting in the passenger seat that was leaning all the way over her husband in the driver's seat, and they had the window down there, both watching him on the sidewalk, and the light had turned green and none of the cars were moving, and I was witnessing what was happening on the street, and it was just, that was kind of like the point where he's, okay.
That light went off and you said, I've
got to do something with it. I got to figure out how to move this forward. This is just, the interest is too great here. So
that was 16 years ago.
Yeah. Yep.
So between then and now, what were some of the challenges you had in starting to build it?
Oh, that list is awfully long. You know, I think one of the challenges or the hardest parts there is, you know, you're trying to sell something that nobody's looking for. You know, our culture has us very entrenched in the tricycle and bike with training wheel path, and here you're trying to bring something forward that says, no, all those decades of tradition really are misguided, and we've got this method that works much better. So whenever you're trying to shift a paradigm, especially on something that has lots of nostalgia and tradition around it, you know, you're up against some steep odds. But then the other thing is, you know, we make a product for a little tiny child, but the child is the user, but the parent is the customer. So you've got a little bit of a disconnect there. It's not like, you know, even kids that are 6 and 8 years old, they can see things and they can pester their parents to, you know, buy it for them and stuff. But when parents just kind of have this preconceived idea of, well, I'll get my kid a tricycle and we'll get them a little bike with training wheels, they're not even searching for alternatives. You're really having to break through that established concept, I guess. And that's a challenge there.
So did you film your son on it to be able to market in some of the places?
Oh yeah, yep. So that's how the company started, really. It was him on his bike and me with a little Sony Handycam, and we'd go all around town and, you know, film him jumping off curbs and riding through the woods and all over the place. And so very simple. Early on, you know, I had enough other business experience, I guess, that I knew this would have to reach beyond South Dakota if it's going to work. I mean, you've got to get really to the world, or at least to the nation. And the World Wide Web, that's what makes it possible. You know, the old axiom of location, location, location for business, really the web is location, location, location today. If you're not on the web, boy, you got to be working your way there, because that's where everything happens. That is how you reach the nation and the world. So right from the start, that was a focus. So timing was good because social media was just coming about at this time. So we immediately set up a YouTube channel, and I'm shooting these videos and posting them to YouTube, and Facebook was really starting to be a thing. And it was kind of a perfect storm in that you had, even with the few original bikes that we got out there, you had parents really proud of their little kid doing amazing things on this little bike, and so they're wanting to brag about their kid on social media. So it was the best word of mouth advertising that we could have ever had, and it was on the web so that it had reach. It went, beyond the state of South Dakota in a heartbeat, and then was able to point to videos and everything. I mean, so we started the company in 2007, and in 2008, I had a guy in Japan see one of those YouTube videos and buy one for his son. So so you think about that, from a little garage project in South Dakota, and still, even in 2008, I wasn't even working full-time in the business. I still was working my other job, and this was like a little evening weekends project in a way. I didn't have any employees yet or anything really. It was just, the reach was just amazing on what the social would do. And he became, that dad in Japan, became one of our first international distributors, and he is to this day, our franchisee in Japan and one of our largest international accounts. So, but that all came from a little YouTube video shot on a handy cam of Bode and I, just running around Rapid City shooting videos. So
it's amazing how social media has changed, really getting products out around the world, not just in Rapid City. How many bikes did you sell that very first year?
Oh gosh, not very many. We started the business in January, but we didn't actually have bikes ready to sell until November. So, from the time you form the corporation, get all the production running and everything, we didn't have bikes till November, but I think we still sold a couple thousand bikes that first year, and then it just kept steadily climbing.
So a couple thousand that first year. How many do you sell on an annual basis now?
We'll sell over 500,000 bikes this year. Yep.
500,000.
Yeah. Yep. We'll surpass 4 million total bikes sold this year.
And you talked about your distributor in Japan. How many countries are you in today?
We say 75 that we've sold to. We've got about 20 franchisees around the world that then serve multiple countries. We probably have about 7 or 8 main markets globally, and then smaller ones, obviously. But you can run into people just about anywhere who have heard of what a Strider is, or it seems like whenever I've been on vacation or something, and that comes up, somebody will pull a phone out and show me a photo or a video of their kid or a relative or a neighbor or something that's had a bike. I was on a motorcycle trip out in the Baja, Mexico. We were out in the boonies, and we ran into another group of motorcyclists. And sure enough, it came up. I think I had Strider stickers on some of my stuff. Phone came out, and they had to show me a video of their kid riding their Strider back home. So.
How'd you feel then? That has to be pretty.
Oh, it's pretty fun. That's always fun to. And what's fun is they're excited about it. I see that they've had that same great experience with their kid, and they want to talk about and share it just like I had. That's what led to the business, is my son and I had a really great experience with this, and so now people everywhere are able to have that great experience.
Yeah, Ryan, I think it's pretty impressive. You came up with it really as a mechanism to help your son maneuver a little easier on the bike. And you started the corporation in South Dakota. Last year, 500 million bikes. And that's a heck of a lot of bikes. And then you're in 75 countries. But then you're doing something even, I would say, even more special because you're giving back as well. Can you tell us about your program of and your foundation that you started?
You bet. Yep. So we started the Strider Education Foundation. This was kind of on the 10th anniversary of the company, and the company is pretty successful there, and we've been trying to figure out a way to make an impact kind of on the education front, because Strider still really serves just a minority of the kids that are born every year. We're still just a niche product, and it's kind of a lot of kids of really engaged in, or even like enthusiast parents or really engaged parents that are looking for these. They're actively out there looking for toys and activities that are going to kind of help advance their kids' skills. And so you realize, well, there's a whole lot of kids that aren't getting these opportunities. They don't get these chances at riding bikes, maybe at all, and certainly not at the super young age of where Strider is working. And so we had been doing some work with just through the company, and that started in 2014. I started the Strider Rider Fund, and that's where we just earmarked 1% of gross revenue right off the top. We just earmarked for charitable purposes. Whether we were profitable or not, we just carved that off and said we're going to do some good with this. And so we were doing that, but then you start realizing how big the need is out there, and you think, geez, our 1% is a drop in the bucket. We need to come up with a way where that can be like seed money, and other people that like what we're trying to do can join in and help. And so that was 3 years later, 2017, we started the Strider Education Foundation. So it's a 501c3 nonprofit. Makes it much easier for other people to get involved and, magnify what we're doing, I guess. We started there the first year with the foundation. The foundation world's a bit different than business, and we didn't really have a good target. Just wanted to try and help people, and we were looking at YMCA's and Special Olympics groups, and just real hit and miss. And it's just realizing that, okay, this pace is too slow, and especially when we're seeing statistics of the decline in ridership. You get a lot of things happening in our world right now that we really felt like we could have a positive impact on, but time was of the essence, really. The number of kids riding bicycles is dropping by 250,000 every year. Like in 4 years' time, there's going to be 1 million fewer kids riding bikes. 3/4 of kids in America won't ride a bike even one time this year. For me, that's kind of hard to conceive. I grew up, I lived on my bike. But that is the reality here. Bicycling among kids has been on a decline for a number of years. And then, and what we then also see is you got screen time that is at 7+ hours a day. That is the average for U.S. children, 7 hours a day on a screen. And you got obesity and all the associated diseases at record highs. And you're looking at all these numbers thinking, okay, we got to find some focus here. We got to turn the dial up on this program, or we're not even going to, stop the bleeding, so to speak. And so that's where we kind of tried to isolate the problem, or I guess the solution. How do we reach the greatest number of kids in the shortest amount of time at the youngest age possible? That's like what we boiled it down to. And once we had the question framed there, then the answer appears. It's like, well, we have to get into the school system. This can't be like an optional program. It needs to be core curriculum of the school system, and it needs to go to the youngest age possible, which is kindergarten. I'd love to get kids on bikes even younger than that, but there's no good organized nationwide structure younger than kindergarten. Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, we really developed a curriculum and a specific product, and and identified a program that we're running with called All Kids Bike. And the mission there is to teach every kid in America how to ride a bike as part of kindergarten PE class. So and to do that, we've got to train the teachers. And what we're finding is we even run into PE teachers that don't know how to ride bikes. And so we're having to break through some kind of insecurities there, and bring them up to speed on how to teach it, and hopefully even teach them in the process, and build out all of the tools they need, provide them the equipment and everything they need to be able to successfully run this in the schools. But I mean, we want basically bikes in the schools to be as common as the basketballs and the desks and the books and everything else. Like, you don't leave kindergarten without knowing how to ride a bike. And so at first, the grand idea is there, and we're out there kind of pushing it, and I'm thinking, okay, we gotta, again, my impatience, just like goes back to, I was too impatient to wait for my kid to learn to ride, always turning the dial a little bit more. It's like, okay, they're not adopting it quick enough. So I kind of challenge the team, is like, there anything in kindergarten PE that would be more valuable for a person to learn for a lifetime than how to ride a bike? And we couldn't come up with anything. This is a skill that can serve you your whole life. It gives you exercise and sport and recreation, but it can even be transportation and fundamental mobility that gets you to and from work or the hospital or friends or whatever it may be. So it offers something beyond any other sport even that I can think of, in that it is transportation, and transportation's kind of fundamental in life.
Ryan, then with the start, did you start with one school here in the Rapid City area, or how did you start it with the kindergarten class?
Yep. We piloted a couple programs in schools here, and then we expanded to more in the area and then other areas. We've got a good bit of the schools in western South Dakota all funded. With Strider's network, we had we've got a pretty good national network of, we probably have 5,000 plus dealers, bicycle shops, motorcycle shops, and so we had a pretty good network to start getting the word out. So, we expanded to other states very quickly, and now we have programs running in all 50 states. So, and we've got, I think 564 schools running the program right now, and a bunch more currently in training, and so that number is rapidly increasing.
That's pretty impressive. Do you have any idea of how many first-time bike riders that you've been able to touch in this kindergarten program?
Yeah, I would say the vast majority of kindergarten classes, the vast majority of kids don't know how to ride a bike. And I've been to school deliveries from Florida to California to, all over the nation, and it's pretty much the same. And so that startles me also, coming from the enthusiast side, as you're going into a classroom of 20 to 30 kids, and you do a reveal with the bikes, and then the kids can get on the bikes, and there's just a handful, maybe 3 or 4, that know how to balance.
They're ready to take off.
And this is without the pedals yet. This is just a balance bike, and these are 5 and 6 year old kids, and they don't know how to keep the bike upright. So that's I guess that's fun to see that we're meeting this need. It's startling to see that the need is so great, but it's fun to see that we have a solution for it, and then to hear back from these schools that, we've had schools say, this is the best PE program we've ever had. We would give up every other program but this one. We see this as not only giving them a life skill, but is giving them a boost of confidence that is even spilling over into their overall engagement in school. We've had teachers talk about kids that have been kind of hard to reach. They they got walls built around them for whatever reason. They can't get them to engage, and there's something about the bike that they just can't. Their walls aren't strong enough. They want to engage with that bike. There's a desire, and I think it goes all the way to just instinctual, that instinct or drive for mobility that makes us go from crawling to walking to running. That bike represents a continuum on that natural urge, and I just think that it is for many kids. It's like it's a game changer. They get through this, and it's a struggle. I mean, they're wobbling and they're falling over and they're figuring it out. But when they get it, there is an elation there and a confidence boost that, I believe it's going to change the trajectory of their whole life.
Yeah, well, what's nice is when you and I were growing up, I think our parents probably kicked us outside to go do something,
Right.
and we were with our friends, and if we couldn't ride a bike, we couldn't keep up with them.
Right.
So you had to learn
Right.
quickly and go.
You did, yeah.
And for these kids now, probably being scared to death of trying something new like that, now they try something, their confidence, they're not afraid, the fear limit's gone, and it probably does open that door for so many other things.
Yeah.
And again, for exercise and just feeling good among themselves, and that they can do the same thing that the kids next to them are able to do. All great things.
Yeah, yep.
Ryan, this is, again, 500 plus schools out there that you're in. Again, 500,000 sales last year. Do you have to pinch yourself saying, I can't believe this is really happening?
Yeah, usually I'm just too busy about trying to turn the dial. So, it's fun to stop and think about it every now and then, but I just, even, I guess the whole time building the company, I never really envisioned any of this and never spent much time even worrying about it. I mean, I think I looked up one statistic early on and it was like, what's the birth rate in the United States? And it was 4 million. And it's like, well, plenty of opportunity. I don't have to research that anymore. I just go for it because I'll probably hit retirement before we'll hit that number. So I didn't spend much time really thinking about what it would look like. I just enjoy chasing after making things better or perform better, work better, make the company work better, make the foundation reach more schools. I mean, I want to hit 1,000 schools. I don't know if we'll make it by the end of this year, but not far after that. And when we hit that one, I just, I want to set my sight on 2,000 and then 5,000, and there's 50,000 in the United States, so I got a lot of work to do. I'm running out of time.
Well, when you hit 1,000, I want to celebrate with you as well, because that'd be an incredible accomplishment.
All right, well, I'm going to be calling you soon.
Good,
So.
good. Ryan, again, with everything that you've done, and you have the warehouse right here in Rapid City, and how many employees do you have?
We're getting close to 40 employees
40
now.
employees, and
Yep.
you've probably received all kinds of offers to move it out of state, possibly out of the country and things. Why'd you leave it here in South Dakota?
Well, South Dakota's my home. I mean, South Dakota is, I love this state. This state's been, I guess, good to me. I think this business would have been harder to get off the ground in other areas. South Dakota, I guess, the politics of South Dakota is pretty free and business friendly. We're not faced with burdensome regulation, and so that helps get business going. You also have people here that are, honest, hardworking people. So I think, a huge part of the success of this whole thing is, found great people all along the way that didn't just come in and punch a clock, but believed in the vision of what I was chasing, and which I could never have chased down myself. It was that these people kind of caught that same vision and that same fever for pursuing it as me, and I think it's just solid people that live here and a good business environment to push forward and grow. And so yeah, I do get offers. I get offers for people that just want to buy the company outright, and we always getting offers, but it's like I just usually reply, I'm still having too much fun.
Well, thanks for not doing that, because we love it here in South Dakota. Ryan, another question I have for you is, a lot of kids today, they look at people that have been inducted in the Hall of Fame and they think they've always had it made, never had a challenge in your life. What do you think has been the biggest challenge you've had with Strider bikes since you started?
You know, and this probably goes whether it's Strider or anything, I think, is just not quitting, not giving up, you know, or settling. Maybe that's more apt, is, you know, failure and struggle, that's just part of life, and that's part of, and certainly business. Business is, you know, that magnifies everything. And, you know, there have been thousands of days when it seemed like, I don't know if it's worth it. I should just go get a job and quit stressing about all this stuff. So, so I think that's for anybody, for myself personally, whether it's this business or another one, it's always been just looking forward, keep putting in the effort and the work, and keep your eye on what could be and maybe not what is. And I'd say that's probably the key there.
Well, that's a great example, because failure and challenges will be out there for all of us, and that's what we need the young kids today to understand, that they'll be out there, not to throw in the towel every time something gets tough, but to work with other people and overcome those challenges that they have, and they can accomplish anything. One last question for you. How'd you come up with the name Strider?
Strider. Well, I've got a notepad out at my office still, and so I had two partners at the start of Strider. My dad, who was retired at the time, and a friend of mine, Gene Woodall, who was a patent attorney, and he had worked on some other patents for me. But the three of us had kind of become friends and rode motorcycles together and everything. So when I came up with the Strider, I owned another business and was, you know, kind of consumed there. I knew I'd need some help. So my dad's always good at jumping in, and he likes to stay busy all the time. And so he was a perfect fit to fill in a bunch of those gaps, and you know, all the legal work and everything could be handled by Gene. So it was the three of us there initially, and we were sitting around, and I had filled out all these different names, and we had like, you know, rider was a part of it, and then we had toddler rider and all these different things, and we were shortening things. Then it was T rider for toddler rider, and I don't know, there's like 50 names on the page, but somehow we just kind of brainstormed around and got to Strider, and then that just really clicked. So yeah, it's not like it just instantly comes to you. It's that matter of just, again, turn the dial. Let's not just come up with one, let's think of 50, and let's keep chasing this, and then we'll hit on something, but let's run all these different avenues. But when we came across that one, you know, the light bulb definitely clicked on and said, there it is. You got rider, you've got stride in there describing what it is, and kind of knew it right then.
Yeah, it's a great name. It looks great on the bike, and it's easy to remember as well. So you hit all three big keys there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to share with the group about Ryan McFarland?
You know, this being inducted into the Hall of Fame is quite an honor. It took me a little while to think about that a little bit, because there again, I'm always looking out forward. I'm always thinking of all the things I haven't done yet instead of what I have. So it's kind of fun to stop and really realize that, okay, it's good to take pause and actually recognize where we are, and then maybe as part of that, then still point to all that is left out ahead of us and stuff. But I do absolutely want to just keep chasing what's possible out in front. So hopefully this is just chapter one, and we can keep updating it over the years. I'm
sure it is only chapter one. But Ryan, thank you very much for your time today. And I am so happy that your parents moved to South Dakota when they did. So.
Me too.
And congratulations on your recent inductee.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.